Hi everyone, and welcome to our Stage 18 betting preview for goodforthegame.co.za. Well, we had the Stage 17 we were expecting, didn't we? We got the GC battle up that final climb, and what an absolute brute it was, especially those last 4 kilometers. There's nothing better than watching cyclists go man against man, where teammates no longer play such a big role. Yes, Sepp Kuss was there with Roglic, but at the end of the day, you needed legs if you're going to hang in there. Just the amount of time Roglic was able to put into Pogacar over the last few hundred meters after Pogacar caught back up to him shows you just how tough that climb was. And what a climb it was from Miguel Angel Lopez. He, of course, is my podium pick. I've also got a bit of him at 40-1 and 33-1. I don't think those bets are going to arrive, though, but I certainly am hoping he can get the podium. He looked excellent today. He loves riding at high altitude, and this is where he really thrives. And he'll probably be quite upset that this race, unfortunately, although there's plenty of climbing on stage 18, doesn't go to the sort of heights that we experienced on stage 17. But what a great win. He took advantage of what looked to be a tactical situation between Roglic and Sepp Kuss. It looked as though Kuss was leading Roglic up with about 3 kilometers to go, and it looked as though at first glances that Roglic just lost his wheel. But watching the replay afterwards, I think what happened there is Roglic almost pulled to the side, and that obviously had a preconceived plan that Kuss was going to go, and Kuss went for it, and Lopez jumped straight across, and I think Roglic could have jumped across as well, but he obviously didn't want to drag Pogacar along with him. So he hesitated a bit, and that was enough for Miguel Angel Lopez to get away. But Lopez still had to hold him off, and there were times over the last couple of kilometers where Roglic, at the very least, looked human. His mouth was actually open, breathing, trying to suck in some of that thin air up there at altitude. But anyway, what an absolutely great stage. Pogacar showed his first signs of weakness. Well, weakness. I mean, he came third on the stage, he's an absolute brute of a stage as a youngster. It was simply superb. Sepp Kuss, well, that's the thing. Jumbo-Visma have just been too strong in this race, haven't they? Richie Porte, another great ride from him. He just edged Enric Mas again. And of course, I've got those two in a long-term match play. Porte just can't get rid of the guy, although as long as all things being equal, hopefully he can stay ahead of him to the end. But Mas, I have to say, I'm very impressed with him. Mikel Landa, what can you say about the man? He didn't have the legs today after putting his team on the front to do all the work. I think they rightly assessed that Jumbo-Visma were not going to chase down the break or to be too bothered about it. He put his team on. His team was simply superb. Brilliant riding. Sonny Colbrelli did a good stint. Wout Poels was back to his third week best. And yes, some brilliant riding as well by Bilbao. Caruso looked a little bit spent by the time he hit the front. But anyway, brilliant work by the team. Yes, Landa couldn't deliver. People are criticizing them for that. I say not a chance. Well done, guys, for giving it a bash. It was Landa's only chance at making the podium, and you gave it a shot, and I think that's jolly impressive. Just a reminder, if you are new to our previews, do go down below and hit the subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss any of them. Right, well, I'm going to get into my bets and that in a little while, but first let's have a quick look at the outright betting. I'm just popping onto World Sports Betting's page here. Now you can obviously see Primož Roglic. He's shortened in dramatically now. He's 2-13 for the win. Pogacar, clear second favorite at 15-2. Lopez, a big shortening from about 50-1, I think, to 18-1, and you can get 100-1 and better the balance. Interesting there. Just looking at that, is that correct, or that can't be right? That must be an error for Lopez to place at 81-25, which is effectively over 3-1. There's no chance. There's definitely an error there. So I wouldn't take that because the bookmaker will just wind up cancelling it. Right, so that's the outright betting. Let's just go on to some of the other jerseys. Sam Bennett had a good day today. He managed to put a couple of early points into Peter Sagan and Matteo Trentin. He's now 2-7. Now we'll talk about the green jersey race a little bit in a little while, but he's almost home and hosed now, Bennett. It's going to be hard for the guys to catch him. Stage 19, though, is going to be crucial. The King of the Mountains jersey, well, the other day I hesitated. There were 17-10 Pogacar, top 3, and Roglic. I was going to back both of them. And, I hesitated. I thought, I'll see what happens. And, if you hesitate in this game, you lose. Pogacar now into 8-11, Roglic 2-1. I would say, if anything, there could be a bit of value there in Roglic, because at the end of the day, Pogacar might be able to try and get a few points tomorrow if the break don't hoover them all up. But, Roglic, I think, of the two might offer some value. He's only 3 points behind him, and Lopez is also in some sort of contingent. Pierre Rolland, well, unfortunately, he just doesn't seem to have the legs to get the jersey at the moment. Let's move on to stage 18 then and have a look at the profile. And today was a brute of a stage. It was the Queen stage, no doubt about that. But this one has actually got more climbing meters in it. We've got two Cat 1 climbs. We've got an out-of-category climb, a Cat 2 and a Cat 3. But we'll get to those in just a bit. The first thing we've got to handle after 14 kilometers is the intermediate sprint. Now, this has me very interested. I don't know if you can see on the profile here, more or less with my arrows hovering around there, there's a little peak there. Actually put out on Twitter the other day, I said, what is that? I mean, it looks as though it's like 300 meters at like 25% or something. But I think it was at Cycling Betting who came back to me and said he's looked on the street map. He can't see any untoward climb. They said, we've got no idea what that is, but unlikely to affect things. It is quite a climb from the start, though, but it won't be enough to drop Bennett. And in fact, I think Quick Step will be quite keen maybe to put it together so he can put some more points into Peter Sagan there. That means the break will probably go just before this first climb or on the first climb, 18.6 kilometers at 6.1%. This has been an incredibly tough Tour de France. These guys must be absolutely exhausted. So we can expect a group to go. Now, I was saying on Twitter after the last stage, I'm expecting the likes of Astana to put guys into the break. I'm expecting the likes of perhaps even Bahrain to use a different tactic and rather send someone like Bilbao up the road, maybe Caruso as well. The problem is, will Jumbo-Visma let them? Because, I mean, Jumbo-Visma are no fools. They know that if Astana and some of the other teams around them put guys up the road, that they're going to try and launch to them later. And if Roglic does show any signs of weakness, which looks highly unlikely at this stage, well, that could make him vulnerable. So I think there's going to be a big race to get into the break. I think Jumbo-Visma are going to control it as much as they can. But what I'm hoping for is if we get a big break with plenty of Astana riders, a couple of Bahrain riders, maybe even a UAE or two in there. I would really love that because that would set it up beautifully for later on. Whichever way you look at it, though, the break that gets away is going to be strong climbers. You're not going to get Andre Greipel getting in the break, that's for sure. And it's a heavy climbing. And then we got a descending down to a Cat 3 climb, 3.2 kilometers at 6.6%. And then another Cat 2, 14.6 kilometers at 6.4. It's certainly not an easy climb. We go along there. I expect the break. It'll become apparent at this point of the stage, I think. Do Jumbo-Visma want to try and win this stage for Roglic? Or... are they just going to let the break go away? I can't see Bahrain working as hard on the front. In fact, as I say, I expect they'll try and get someone in the break rather. And then we go to this climb. It's a Cat 1, 6.7 kilometers at 7%. I mean, that's sapping stuff. We then have a decline down to the climb where if the finish was that bit closer, I think we would see tremendous amount of action amongst the GC guys. The problem is that it sort of crests like 30 kilometers from the finish, 32 kilometers from the finish. It's a long time to hold off. For example, if Pogačar had to attack here and get 30 seconds on Roglic, the chances are Roglic slows down a little bit, waits for Kuss and Dumoulin to get back to them, and he's got two guys to help him work back up to Pogačar. That doesn't mean the likes of Pogačar and Landa won't try, and that's why I would love to see them get some guys in the break. Because if, for example, a Pogačar could get 20 seconds over there and you had one or two teammates on the other side, and I realize this is highly unlikely because the UAE team just doesn't look strong enough at the moment, but wouldn't that be great? Because then you'd have teams pulling him along and working to the end. You've got another uncategorized climb here and then pretty much descent to the finish before a very slight rise. Whew, interesting stages. You'll see the betting, the bookmakers are also a bit conflicted. Will this be a breakaway stage or will this be a GC? And you'll see with my bets that I'm also a little bit conflicted. Let's quickly go and have a look at the betting on the stage. Here I am on World Sports Betting. So Hershey 7-1. Sunweb took it easy today, no doubt about that. They're definitely planning something tomorrow. But I can't have 7-1 in a stage like this. Carapaz, can he go again? He's had two brilliant days. I thought he was absolutely superb up that final climb today. Always knew he would get caught. He actually shortened to favourite at one point after drifting out to 7-1. I saw him come into 9-4. But he was always going to get caught when the guys attacked each other. But what a brilliant ride it was. And you often find in the third week of Grand Tours that the same riders appear in the breaks over and over again because they simply have the legs and the others don't. Pogačar 10-1. He has got the sprint to win it if it comes down to a small group at the end. And Roglic likewise at 12-1 here. There is a bit of 14-1 available as well. Martinez has looked strong, but he features in one of my bigger bets for some time. Every now and again, I like to stick my neck out on a match bet. You'll see he features. Kwiatkowski for Sky, for Ineos, he's been pretty quiet up to now, obviously since Bernal went out, but I think he's definitely going to be a contender. But I've gone for some bigger prices, I must say. Let's run through my bets. Just a reminder to all of you guys who enjoy your rugby tomorrow night, and that's at 9 o'clock South African time. It's the handicap rugby chat that matters. This is a live show. You can watch the show live. We talk about the betting. If some of the guys say get on, you probably want to get on pretty quickly because the markets do tend to move. So do join us at 9 o'clock tomorrow night for the handicap. And also, if you haven't yet done so, make sure you keep an eye on the Good for the Game forum where other guys share their bets as well. But let's get into my bets now. And I'm going to scan down a really real mixed bag. I'm going half a unit Roglic 14-1 at Sunbet. So I actually think tomorrow could be a day for Roglic. I think at the end of the day, Jumbo-Visma are going to work a bit on the front to keep the break in some sort of a check. Roglic, I believe, will be a bit disappointed that he hasn't met perhaps one more stages. He did win the one sort of uphill sprint, but he hasn't really dominated in the mountains, and rightly so. He's just sat behind his team. He's doing what he needs to win the race. I've got a feeling he might want to lay down a marker, and he is the fastest, along perhaps with Pogacar, of the favourites should they come to the finish together. And I think there's a good chance on that. I think the 14-1 Roglic is a pretty good price. Then I'm going quarter unit Sivakov from Ineos at 40-1. I saw even as I was doing the preview, it shortened from 50 to 40, so I had to change my price there. 40-1. He has shown signs of decent legs over the last few days. The other day, he had to bridge across to the break, which obviously sapped his energy, and clearly they were riding for Carapaz. Sivakov could be the Ineos card tomorrow. A man who I thought looked pretty impressive today. He hung with the front group for longer than I expected for a guy that was out of contention, and that's Thibaut Pinot, 66-1. Expect him to get into the break tomorrow, and if he does, and if the break sticks, he's going to be very hard to beat. He's got quite a quick finish, and he's also capable of perhaps going alone over the final climb. I'm sticking a man in here at 125-1 simply because I think he's going to get into the break. He finished 28 minutes, I think it was, today down. He was 20-odd yesterday, but I've seen he's got good legs, and unless he has gone horribly wrong and is, has lost his form totally, which is quite possible, I think that Aert is going to be in the break. The problem for Aert is that he really has to win the solo. He doesn't have much of a sprint on him, so it would mean he has to go alone. But I'm at 125-1. I'm including him. The CCC team would certainly like a win. Not that liking a win means they're going to get a win, but I do expect him to try. And then how about this for an interesting bet? Quarter unit on Wout van Aert at 100-1. Now, Van Aert was climbing brilliantly again today. He was eventually shelled by Barra and Meridia, but if you looked at the size of the peloton, by the time this classic specialist was shelled, there were about 15 riders left in the peloton. So he was riding absolutely superbly. He may well have to do quite a bit of work on the front if Jumbo-Visma decide to chase it down. So, 100-1 is maybe reflective of his chances. But if it comes to a small group, and I could see Van Aert, for example, losing contact here if he hasn't lost contact way before, of course, but losing contact on the steep climb, by the way, 6 kilometers at 11.2% is out of category time. That is steep, and that is for 6Ks. This is the sort, if it was closer to the end, I just wish they'd put the end sort of at the bottom of this climb. That would have been great. But anyway, Wout van Aert is there, and if there is a bit of a collection over the top and things start slowing down a bit and he gets back in, who's going to beat him in the sprint? Absolutely no one, I can tell you. So quarter unit on Van Aert. But here's my bet for the day. Now, I've stuck my neck out a couple of times in this Tour de France on the match play. Some I've hit, some I haven't. But here we go. I think this is a good bet. 5 unit Martinez over Carthy at 6-10. Martinez, I believe he's really targeting this one. Carthy may well be in the break with him, but more to do work than anything else. And to me, he just doesn't seem to have the legs that I was hoping in this Tour de France. I think the 6-10 Martinez is a cracking bet. I think Martinez has every chance of winning this from a break, and even has an outside chance of winning it should he rather stay with the major contenders, and that becomes a GC battle. So those then are my bets. Take a look at that profile. It's going to be a great stage. Guys, we're running out of Tour de France. It's only a few stages left. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Join me for the rest of the previews, because let's not forget, we've got 2 more Grand Tours coming before the end of the year. What a cracking couple of months we're in for. Enjoy the stage, everyone, and let's hope we can start making some inroads on those books.